What's up, ProGuides family? How are you doing today? I'm Renox. In today's episode, we're going to be telling you how to get out of each group of ranks. Whether you're silver and you're just starting out, or you've already played for a while and you're already ranked higher, we've got you covered, and we've got some great tips and advice that can help you get to the next level. With this comprehensive guide, you'll be able to reach the rank of your dreams in no time. But before we start off, it's time for our question of the day, and that would be, what is your favorite map? Personally, I really love Mirage. It's the map I've played the most and the map I feel most comfortable with. I know it's recently been getting a lot of hate though, so I would like to hear what you guys have to think. Make sure to tell me down in the comments below. So let's begin by talking about how to get out of the silver ranks. Playing in silver can be very annoying because you really can't rely on your teammates, and smurfing is so prevalent there. Those two things immediately are something you should consider. Why can't you rely on your teammates, and why are there so many smurfs? The answer is simple. It's because silver players lack basic fundamental skills. Because of that, smurfs that have some aiming skills and good crosshair placement can essentially run over them. All you have to do to get out of silver is start developing your fundamentals so that you can outskill most of your opponents. But of course, we here at ProGuides understand that telling you to develop basic fundamental skills is pretty much the same as saying get good lol. And well, that isn't super helpful. So how would you go about getting these essential skills down? Start by working on your aim. You can do this by hopping onto the Aimbots community map and trying out some different shooting styles. Try to one-tap some bots, spray some down, and try to kill some with short bursts of 3 to 8 bullets. Just get a good feeling of how your sensitivity feels and try to get a decent feeling for your aim, and especially focus on trying to headshot as many bots as you possibly can. Getting used to aiming at the head might be tedious at first, but if you can get used to it early on, your aim will be a lot better once it gets more and more developed. If you manage to get some of the basic aiming skills down, and if you're able to control your recoil at a basic level, you'll be able to escape the silver ranks and get up to Nova with relative ease. So, once you've ranked out of silver, how do you get out of gold Nova? Well, the biggest difference between Nova and silver players is mostly in what stage of developing their skills they are. So a lot of your time, if not most of your time, you'll want to spend developing your mechanical skill. Continue playing aimbots, and in there try to get faster and faster at aiming at the head of the bots. But you also need to practice some new things. Firstly, you're going to have to learn how to counter-strafe. With good counter-strafing skills, you'll be able to stop moving and start shooting accurately, faster, more and more consistently. In Nova, a lot of the time, who wins and loses comes down to who can kill their opponents faster. So if you're able to stop moving and start firing at your opponents faster, you'll be able to win a lot more duels, assuming you can hit your shots anyways. But with all the aim practice you've been doing, that should be easy. So how do you counter-strafe? Well, that's quite simple actually, and with a little practice, anyone can get good at it really fast. When you're moving in Counter-Strike, you're inaccurate, and when you stop moving, you don't instantly stop, but instead you lose your momentum until your speed goes down to 0. But during the time you're slowing down, you're still inaccurate. So what you'll want to do when you're, let's say, moving to the right and you want to stop instantly is to quickly tap the left strafe key. Assuming you haven't changed your strafe binds and you play on a US keyboard, your strafe keys will be A and D. So when you're moving to the right with D and you want to counter-strafe, all you have to do is let go of D and simultaneously press A. This is something you just need to get a feeling for, so I recommend going into aimbots and in there trying to counter-strafe in between shots. Try to only go for one taps because then you'll be sure that you're either shooting accurately and therefore you're counter-strafing correctly, or you're going to be quite inaccurate, in which case your counter-strafes just aren't on point yet. Just keep practicing it until you get a good feeling for it and it feels natural. Another way to decrease time to kill is developing crosshair placement. Crosshair placement is when you try to place your crosshair at a strategic position. So if you're clearing an angle, aim at the spot you think an enemy might be before you even see them. Always make sure your crosshair is at head height as well. This will allow you to instantly counter-strafe and headshot someone if they come into your crosshair. I'd advise practicing crosshair placement in two main ways. The first is hopping on a Valve or community deathmatch server and trying to get a feel on how to place your crosshair around the map with all the different angles. Focus on keeping your crosshair wherever you think an opponent might show up and make sure it's always at headshot height. Whenever you're running around, make sure you're tracking around the walls looking for potential new enemies that are peeking you. The other way to improve your crosshair placement, which is more useful for getting an exact idea of which spots to pre-aim rather than a general idea like in deathmatch, is to play on the YPrac practice maps. In them, you have a pre-fire practice mode in which bots will spawn in all the common angles. You're now tasked with clearing out all the angles one by one. This map is great for learning what angles you should pre-aim, as well as exactly where the head of your opponent can be. This means that on the server, if you know exactly where an opponent is playing, you can sometimes even pre-fire at that exact spot before even seeing him, as you now know how to pre-aim it exactly. In the beginning, learning how to place your crosshair might feel really unnatural, and it might take a lot of focus and effort to keep it on the right spot. But don't you worry, because sooner rather than later, you'll be used to it. And once you are, you're going to be able to outreact all of your opponents, and you'll start hitting those instant headshots. We already talked a bit about controlling your recoil if you're in silver, but if you want to carry yourself out of Gold Nova and to the ranks above, you're going to need to have a more solid feel for it. To train your recoil easily and effectively, I'd advise practicing it on the Recoil Master community map. On here, focus mainly on hitting the first 10 to 15 bullets of both the AK and M4 sprays. You can, of course, also practice the full 30 bullet spray, but you won't be using those as much, so it's a little less time efficient. If you manage to get down your counter strafes, crosshair placement, and recoil control, I'm sure that you'll be able to carry yourself out of Gold Nova in no time. So once you get out of Gold Nova, things change up a little bit. Up until this point, you can just focus solely on your aiming skills, and you'll be able to run out and kill everyone. But in Master Guardian, people will, like you, have also developed their aim a bit. Sure, there's still a lot of room for improvement, but once you get to Master Guardian, you should be still working on your aim. But more on that later. You can't expect yourself to out-aim and out-react everyone anymore, or at least if you do, you will have limited success. So once you get to Master Guardian, you need to start working on your game sense as well as your nade knowledge. Try to find smokes and flashes to deal with the spots that you find the toughest to deal with. For instance, if you're getting picked by the Opera in Window of Mirage, learn a window smoke. Is window no issue for you, but instead you always get killed from CT? Well, you know what to do. Learn a smoke for CT. In today's day and age, there's no excuse not to know the most common smokes for the maps. It's incredibly easy to find smokes that are useful for each map pool map. There's tons of good videos on YouTube, or alternatively, you could also use the YPRAC maps we talked about when we discussed getting out of Gold Nova. On there, you can find the most common lineups for all of the map pool maps. So if you don't know many smokes, just hopping on there for 5 minutes or so can prove to be incredibly useful, as you'll be able to learn many smokes in a very short amount of time. Well, now that you know how to throw smokes, flashes, Molotovs, and HE grenades, you just need to learn when to use them. Learning when to use your utility will take a lot of experience to do correctly, but in order to improve on it faster, always try to think of why you're throwing that specific piece of utility. There's plenty of good reasons which might cause you to use your utility, but make sure it's clear for you what that reason is. Don't just throw a smoke because you saw some pro use it once. Make sure that to you, the reason for throwing your utility is clear. As for game sense, this is really hard to teach and honestly will just come down to time. If you want to improve faster, try to get into the habit of watching demos, or even better, watch a demo with a coach. You can find plenty of great coaches on ProGuides.com, and they're all very willing to help. For aiming, a coach might not be completely necessary, even though it will make you improve a lot faster. But if you want to improve your game sense and awareness, a coach will truly make a tremendous difference, and without one, you simply can't improve as much without spending years studying the game. Now that you've got one of the Eagle ranks, or even the Supreme rank, there's only one more step to go, and that's reaching Global Elite. Getting Global Elite is much harder than reaching any of the ranks before it, and how could it not be? Global Elite is the rarest rank after all. But that's not the only thing that makes it so difficult. Truthfully, the difference between a Legendary Eagle and a Global Elite isn't all that noticeable. Of course, the average Global Elite will have better overall skills and will generally have more experience, but a Legendary Eagle on a good day will be able to outskill a Global Elite and vice versa. Mechanically, your average Global Elite might be better than your average LE, but not by a lot, and both are very capable of killing each other in a short amount of time. So what reaching Global Elite comes down to is really just winning more than half your games rather than hard carrying. Because more likely than not, you won't be able to carry these kinds of games all by yourself. So if you want to rank up further, you'll have to start relying on team play, preferably with some pre-mades, because playing with friends is more fun and people tend to become less tilted whenever they play with their friends. Alternatively, if you have no other option other than to solo queue, you should try working on getting better at communicating. Give all info that might be helpful, like when you're rotating or what angles you're holding. Try to communicate everything you might find helpful if a teammate communicated. An example of something that might not be super obvious but can really make a difference is if you tell your teammates when you're just spamming a smoke and there is no threat. Let's say you're a short player on B Mirage and you hear your teammate who's holding B apps firing all guns blazing. You might want to leave short and help out your teammate, or at least that should be your instinct. But if your teammate is only spamming a smoke, that rotation wasn't necessary and maybe even allowed your opponents to get out mid for free. Little things like this may not seem like a lot, but can change the outcome of the round and therefore can win you games. As soon as you reach Legendary Eagle or higher, you basically want to find out all those little things that will allow you to win an extra game here or there. And of course, you'll still want to keep practicing your mechanics, because even most global elites have lots of room for improvement left. Although, once you're at the point of becoming a global elite, the process of improving your mechanical aim becomes slower and slower, and eventually you'll start to see diminishing returns. Basically, once you get to the Eagle ranks, all you have to do to get global is keep working on your fundamentals and try to find all the little things that can help you win more games. After all, you just need to win a few more games than you lose and you'll eventually get global. Well guys, that's going to be it for today. If you did enjoy this video or maybe even learn something new, make sure to leave a like, and if you're feeling nice, even subscribe. Also, check out the rest of our channels because there's so many more helpful videos on there that you would not want to miss out on. Lastly, if you really want to improve as much and as fast as you can, be sure to head on over to ProGuides.com, where you can find all of our amazing coaches waiting to help you out, as well as the original simple master course to improve at CSGO. With all that out of the way, I wish you a great rest of your day.